everybody, what's going on? And welcome to my review of Dreamland, well, it's kind of a new film, even though it was made a few years ago, but let's call it a new film. So this is a drama. It's directed by Miles Joris Parafit. Yeah, Miles Joris Parafit. And it's a drama set in 1935 where a bank robber named Allison, who's played by Margot Robbie, is on the run from the law. She's been involved in a bank robbery that's all gone awry, and she's hiding out in the barn of a family where 17-year-old Eugene, played by Finn Cole, discovers her. And for no real reason, probably because she's Margot Robbie, he falls for her. And this kid, he's sort of been brought up reading comic books and stuff. And yeah, he's got this adventurous streak. Like, he wants a bit more in life. He did have an interesting character dynamic in that his father walked out on him when he was really, really young. And so he lives with his stepdad and stepsister. And there's sort of a, you know, like a broken family dynamic, and yeah, as a result, he kind of wants a little bit more out of life. So he meets this bank robber who, of course, has lived this life of adventure and stuff. And yeah, so then we kind of get into this second act where she wants him to steal a truck so she can escape to Mexico, and that happens for a while. And eventually they run off together, and I'm not going to say anything else because that would just be getting into spoiler territory. Now, for those of you who may be watching my channel for the first time, I should probably elaborate that some might say I have a little bit of a thing for Margot Robbie, and yeah, some might call it an obsession, and they'd be right. So yes, I am a really big Margot Robbie fan, aside from the obvious reasons that, wow, I do think she is a really great actress, and she was also a producer on this film. So yeah, it was made a couple of years ago, and it premiered last year, like mid last year at a film festival, and it's taken ages for us to finally get a chance to see this thing, and I've been really keen to see it because the trailer looked good, the premise was really interesting, I liked the setting, I like the mid-1930s setting, and yeah, just this whole dynamic of, you know, a bank robber and an adventurous kid, like, that really had potential. And that's the thing with this movie, it had so much potential, but it wasn't great. And that's the thing, as a Margot Robbie fan, like, you know, as much as I adore her, her films are really hit and miss, you know, like for every I, Tonya, we get given a Mary Queen of Scots. Yeah, she's got kind of a very mixed bag of films. You either love them or hate them. And this film for me fell very much in the middle. So things I liked about it, look, the production design, like, you know, in past reviews, I have elaborated on the fact that I have a lot of respect for movies that can nail a time period through props, through vehicles and costume design and hair, you know, everything that goes into making something look authentic. And this movie did a really bang up job of that, I thought. Like, yeah, was very convinced that I was watching a mid-1930s setting. I thought the performances were really good. Yeah, everyone did a pretty decent job. Margot Robbie was once again absolutely fantastic, and I loved her character. You know, she kind of had this element about her where you're never sure if she is telling the truth about this scenario that happened with this bank robbery and where a 9-year-old girl was murdered, or if she's just spinning a bunch of shit in order to manipulate people. So there was that kind of mystery element, you know, there was that whole thing of like, oh, is she telling the truth? Should you go along with her? Like, yeah, I liked that. And I really, really liked the way this movie was shot. It looked stunning in so many aspects, from the choice of scenery, like it sort of had like a Western feel to it, even though, you know, it was sort of after the Old West period, but it still retained that kind of atmosphere. And there were a lot of like really big wide vista shots and sunsets and things that looked gorgeous, and things like the way that the camera was framed with certain shapes in the frame that were really visually appealing. Like one shot where there's two people standing by a road and like the road just goes all the way back into the distance, and like it looked really interesting. There was a great choice of lenses as well. There was a scene in a church where there was like almost like a fisheye lens positioned behind the preacher, and like you saw the entire room sort of all in the screen, and yeah, it looked interesting. There were camera placements from above people moving along. There was some like really good tracking shots, some great Steadicam work. I really appreciated the camera work in this film. It was great. And just the introduction to the characters, like the first act I thought was really good. Like it was very interesting. Like I said, this broken family dynamic, it really worked. I liked the character of Eugene. You know, he was a really likable guy. You know, the character of Allison, like I said before, you know, she was really interesting, and she was this sort of person that even though she's done bad things, you kind of like her, which again added to the element of mystery surrounding her. So it started off good. Like I said, though, the second act just kind of went nowhere. It wasn't all the way boring. It wasn't slow. Just not much happened. It wasn't compelling, and that was the letdown for this entire film. It wasn't as compelling as it should have been, and it wasn't until the third act things picked up a little bit again there. So that was okay, but by then the damage was kind of done. Like at one point I even checked the time on the film, like to see how far I'd come in, because I kind of thought, okay, like, you know, we still haven't really had much happen. Like, when are things going to pick up? And it was like 40 minutes into the 1 hour and 40 minute runtime, and still not much had happened. I was like, oh, okay, that's bad. And there was one scene, though, that it kind of bugged me a little bit. The way it was framed was fascinating. It was a scene, and it's not a plot spoiler, where Allison is in a shower and she's talking to Eugene and invites him in. Now, the way the camera is positioned, I thought was so interesting, because you don't see Allison. You know she's in a shower, but you don't see anything more than like her arm coming out of the side of the screen. And Eugene eventually joins her and stuff. And I just thought to myself, this is brilliant. This is such a great way to do a shower scene tastefully, you know, where maybe the actor doesn't want to get naked or anything like that. Like, it, you know, you don't really sort of need to see what's going on. Unfortunately, and I know it's going to sound weird coming from me, unfortunately they kind of ruined it by swinging the camera around and having Margot do a nude scene, which, look, let's face it, the superficial part of me was like, woohoo! But the part of me that was really appreciating the way that that scene was framed and everything was kind of like, you didn't need to do that. And aside from all that, I just sort of felt there was not a lot of chemistry between Margot and Finn. I didn't really buy the two of them as this sort of couple of people that were sort of falling for each other, especially because as they're escaping, and again, it's not really a big spoiler, as they're escaping, like, you know, she even says to him, like, oh, you know, you're only doing this because you're falling in love with me, and I'm not falling in love with you. And, you know, she had this fiery independence, and I thought, yeah, this is interesting. You know, he's obviously smitten with her, but is she just using him or whatever? And then it's kind of like, all of a sudden, she just falls for him. And I didn't buy it, you know? There was no lead up. There was no real sort of moment where, you know, you sort of want the two of them to get together or whatever. Like, yeah, I thought their relationship was a little bit flimsy. So, look, overall, yeah, look, check it out if you want to. You're not going to have a bad time. Would I see it again? Yeah, I might. You know, like I said, it's not too bad. Like, I would probably own it only because I am trying to build up a library of Margot Robbie films. I would own it if it was cheap enough. I wouldn't buy it on day one for $30. Not a chance. I'd get it down the track, you know, when it's like $10 or so. So, look, that being said, it wasn't the worst movie I've seen this year, but it was by far not the best, and I'm gonna give Dreamland a 6 out of 10. So thank you very much to everyone for watching this review. I hope you found it informative and maybe educational or entertaining. No, it probably wasn't that entertaining. But either way, if you have seen Dreamland, I'd love to know what you guys thought of it, because from what I've read, I'm sort of gathering that a lot of people feel the same way I did. But look, hey, you know, might have been the best movie you've seen this year, and that is totally okay. So let me know what you thought of Dreamland. Drop me some comments either here, Facebook, or Twitter. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.